But you've got to remember that it's not umpire's call for LBW. So it would need to be all 3 reds for it.
Well, good day, or good night, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. We're in a darkened southeast London, but we're looking on the beautiful Mount Maunganui. Am I saying that right?
Maunganui, well done.
Maunganui. I am at Gary Naylor 999, and it's my absolute delight to be making my debut, as they say in this neck of the woods, or rather in that neck of the woods, with the 5th day of the first test twixt New Zealand and England. And England are hanging on. They're 98 for 4. They still trail by 164 runs. And as we were speculating, this will be an interesting match, but for one reason.
That's one reason that New Zealand can still bat again. As I learned walking in, I remember walking in today just going, I'm very excited about this result. All possible results are possible without looking at the scoreline properly and wondering why did New Zealand declare for it 9 down yesterday.
We're so conditioned to games on fast forward, and if a game does get to the 5th day, it's the halfway through the 4th innings. But no, this is Test cricket of a bygone era.
I reckon. Look, my only defence at the moment is I was following 3 Test matches over the last few days.
It has been an absolute feast for Test cricket fans, hasn't it?
It has.
Although it should be said, actually, the India-Bangladesh Test match started after this one and finished before it.
It's true.
It's true, and I think Jofra Archer has bowled an entire career of the 100 just in that first innings.
There was a stat yesterday that 12 wickets fell at the Gabba in between England, in between Mitchell Santner coming in and BJ Watling going out.
Well, Mount Maunganui, by the way, is what a frustrated zookeeper shouts at Chi-Chi, saying there's only 2 days left of this breeding programme exchange. Mount Maunganui and make the beast with 2 backs. At least that's what I'm calling it.
Pitch slower than the repopulation rate of the average panda. But starting off after lunch is the man who has bowled since yesterday, almost unchanged, barring one over from Trent Bolt, who then went off with what we understand is an injured rib.
I bet you hold out, you better not drive, you better not sweep, I'm telling you why. Santner's balls are drifting around, Santner's balls are drifting around.
He's got an old-fashioned analysis at the moment. 23 overs, 13 maidens, 3 for 23. That's an economy rate of course, 1. And it'll be Ben Stokes on strike, left hand to the left arm over of Mitchell Satnav. And, well, it's an encouraging start by England. It's a half volley, needs the people put away, and Ben Stokes did that to mid-wicket.
My name is Lakhan. My name is Lakhan.
A lovely bottom hand dominant flick through mid-wicket by this man.
I got out Ben Stokes, and he calls me a oh, if I'd only seen that Ben Stokes was so mean. And
He's in again as Mitchell Satnav, and Ben Stokes is back defending it to the bowler.
Back out there, you'd be relying on him to pick up the bulk of these wickets.
Very full again, but defended this time by Ben Stokes, no run. Well, it's unusual for a spinner to even take a wicket, as I understand, in New Zealand, never mind be the man most likely. But certainly all the speculation is that if England can keep Mitchell Santner away, then the draw is in hand. I'm not so sure, as this is very full and defended again by Ben Stokes, who is surrounded by 4 players. I do like to see that in a field. There's a slip and a leg slip, and there's a silly point just forward and a short leg just forward. If you're going to have men around the bat, have men around the bat. Don't leave a gap for them. Yeah. Stokes on 17, 60 deliveries. England past 100, by the way, 102 for 4. Not that it's hugely important yet. Goes back and defends again with a very straight bat as Ben Stokes. It's the end of the over, the 60th of the innings. Joe Denley has 21. Oh no, there's still another ball to come.
Many of,
oh yeah. See, I'm out of the rhythm. I'm into the 100 already. I'm into the 100 already. 5 deliveries. So yes, he's got one more to go. He's left arm. He's over the wicket is Mitchell Satnav, and he's aiming for a few cracks, and he's also aiming to wear down the England team. As Ben Stokes pads up to this, there's the most half-hearted appeal you've ever seen in your life from BJ Watling, who admittedly can do what he likes in this test match, having made that brilliant 205. You can tweet us at Gorilla Cricket, and some of you may have done. And if you have, we're about to hear what you've said.
They haven't yet. I'm waiting. So I've had, just before the lunch break was the last tweet, and I'm looking forward to getting yours right now in either Facebook, YouTube, Quick Tracker, or Twitter. So please
tweet us at Gorilla Cricket. You can follow us on YouTube. The link to that is on our Twitter feed. You can watch us at facebook.com/Crick Tracker, as currently 260 of you are doing, and facebook.com/Gorilla Cricket. So we are almost unavoidable, and that's very much the idea.
Can we be absolutely certain, by the way, because I haven't seen much of the test, I've seen some of these first sessions, but not much, that Charles de Grandhomme isn't Darren Stevens
Colin
in a
de
wig? Oh, Colin de Grandhomme, yes. We are. Anyway, it's Tim Southey who's in, and he's clipped to mid-wicket, but there's a man there.
Yeah, jingle for the opening bowler. It is these two who started proceedings today.
He's so pretty, that Tim Southey. He's so pretty and witty and bright. But Tim Southey's not as pretty as Kane Williamson.
So it's the first Southey into bowl. Somewhat laboured approach, and that ball goes outside off stump, dies in the wicket. But Southey's at 122 kmh, and if anything, that's over-reading because he's very much at medium pace so far.
There's not a lot to be gained for most of the bowlers. I think with the exception maybe of Archer in this game for really bending their back on this wicket. Southey's been trying to get maximum swing pretty much throughout the test match.
Yeah, bowling in the 60th over on a green outfield. Good luck with that. As Southey's in again, and there's just a modicum of away movement, but Joe Denley shows him the maker's name. The textbook come to life there as Denley defended, and there is no run. He's racked up 100 balls as Joe Denley, and he's also racking up something of a test career. I mean, I don't think anybody gave him much of a chance, but he's now averaging 32. Okay, there's still some way to go, but he hasn't got 100 yet. But I think he's shown he's got what it takes to survive temperamentally in Test cricket. Whether his technique will stand up to it remains to be seen.
And what a ball!
Yes, I mean that's why Tim Southey should perhaps bend his back a little, because that's obviously hit a crack, and it simply shot up and went through the gate. Almost clipped him on the elbow. I mean, you can't do much with that. It was.
You're talking about technical weaknesses, and Denley does have a bit of a gap between bat and pad, presenting the inside edge. He gets hit in the sort of stomach and box and inside thigh region quite a bit.
Yeah, but I mean that ball jumped over the stumps as well. I mean, you've just got to hope that that when you miss that, it doesn't hit the stumps or it doesn't catch the edge, because there's no real way of playing a ball like that. As he's in again, and perhaps a little hesitantly coming forward there, because that was a half volley and he could have put that away, but he didn't. He just nudged it to mid-on. If you're wondering why I'm talking about run-scoring opportunities, we are close to the kind of equation you get where runs count double, as they say, because once you knock off the deficit, then obviously the New Zealanders have got to have to have enough time in which to make the fourth innings target. But maybe England won't quite get that far. This is a little uppish, but it's been hit through mid-wicket, and there's 2 runs there, as Neil Wagner is the man who fields it. I think Wagner might be quite useful on this pitch.
Yeah, he was getting a little bit of life out of the pitch. Certainly with the pitch of inconsistent bounce is starting to happen on day 5. If he can get the odd one up around the ribs and then the odd one shooting through low, it's going to be very tricky. I know you're not a fan of inconsistent bounce, but it is day 5.
Oh, I don't mind it on day 5. What I don't like is I don't like it on day sort of 2, and then everybody says it's a sporting wicket. I think it's a bit of an unfair wicket on day 2.
This pitch, I think, has gone too far the other way.
Yeah, I think it's too slow, and it's a bit disappointing. It's the first test at this ground, and
apparently this is not what the pitch is usually like in first-class cricket here.
Yeah.
It's usually quicker than this, according to no less a source than Ian O'Brien.
I just think that with the amount of knowledge that's available these days, and that the kind of improvements we've seen in rugby pitches and football pitches, it does seem strange that it's still a roll of the dice when it comes to how a cricket pitch will play. You would think there'd be some way of getting more reliable pace into it. This is short, and he could hit that anywhere, could Ben Stokes, and what he's done is hit it straight into the shins of the man at Silly Point. And back in the day, that might encourage Silly Point to move, but now they're all body armoured up, which I think is a little bit unfair, really. I think you should have a helmet on. I'm not sure about the rest of the body
better than a broken
armour.
leg.
Yeah,
I know,
they're not
but
playing with tennis
you
balls
shouldn't
anymore.
be standing there. You see, you can move the player as Stokes goes back and defends. My point is that if he hits the ball hard like that, then the fielder kind of has to move away but now they just stand there.
We did see one in the first session, I think it was Stokes' first scoring shot, where Tom Latham did jump out of the way, fearing for his life, because Stokes was aiming a very hard cut shot. I think on that occasion he might have tried to get out of the way, but failed to.
So 4 men round the bat, and BJ Watling, and that's an arm ball from Mitchell Santner. That's a pretty good delivery, slightly too wide perhaps, and Stokes was able to leave it, but it was a very well. I mean, it's showing
It's not an arm ball. He's held it to turn, and it just didn't.
Yeah, it drifted a little bit the way an arm ball, particularly from Embury would bowl an arm ball.
You may notice
curved.
Santner's got incredibly long fingers, so he does get a lot of action on the ball.
Yes, this ball is very full, and Stokes hits it to his favourite place. And New Zealand's got to be careful there, because it's a half volley, and he's just hit it into the infield, but the infield is too far back, and it's just allowed England a very easy strike rotation. And now Santner's got to change his line. He's got a new batsman to bowl at. I think it's really important, especially when you've got so many runs in the bank, is if you're on the one, get on the one.
Yeah, I think that was a little bit of... I mean, England just weren't doing that at all in the first session. Stokes, I think, is better at that than pretty much any other England batter.
You've got to do that, as this time round the wicket to the right-handed Denley. This time has 2 slips and no leg slip, which I think is a mistake, but he gets it to short leg. There is no run. Why would you not have a leg slip?
I don't think the ball would ever end up there.
Oh,
Not with the way the ball's turning this much.
but you've already seen one go straight on. You've already said the inside edge is in play with Denley. I definitely have a man there. As Santner's in, he goes wide on the crease, and this one turns into a straight bat, and it's the end of the over. England 105 for 4. Your tweets.
Some tweets here. We've got lot of support for Joe Denley. So Mog, Joe Denley, #1 cricket super batter, better than Sachin, Zindabad. So some good support there. Adelaide Barmies, morning chaps. This track is not special, is it? Still, we should be playing it much better. Best throw in for Butler next test? Question.
Steady. Steady. I mean, one thing you can say about Josh Butler is he does bat time, and he is... There was a weird innings that he played in the first innings. The first half of it was very good, but then the second half was just odd. But I did see a stat, I think it was during the Ashes, that only Virat Kohli's batted 100-plus balls more than Butler in the time that Butler's been in the back in the test arena. I think England are playing this all right, and certainly in the fourth innings.
It's a slower pitch, and they're just playing to those conditions.
I'll just say, while Mog's tweet is in play, that was a tremendous jingle, by the way, for Tim Southey, who's now round the wickets to Stokes, defended, no run.
Yep, certainly is. And this one from Anna Forsyth. Santner looks dangerous out there. If I trust anyone to hold his wicket, it's Ben. But still that sort of slight hesitation from the English supporters about whether he can hold up the end for the entire day.
Well, if we remember that innings for the ages that Ben Stokes played in the Ashes, the first innings was a horrendous stroke where
Yes, it was.
chased the widest of wide ones. So he does have it in him. He also seems to have increased his volume of tattoos, perhaps as this ball is defended, perhaps as a tribute to his returning to his homeland.
Or like assassins do after a kill.
Yes,
kill,
is he Yakuza? Is he Yakuza?
And there's a question from Mog. One to you, Gary, actually. Quick question. Does Gary actually like anything about cricket?
Yeah, That's what it's. One of Mog's more piercing insights, that one, but yes, fair enough. There. So Trent Bolt has did Lockie Ferguson punch him in the
Lockie Ferguson's playing domestic cricket elsewhere.
as this ball is defended? No run. I presume that Lockie Ferguson will be the man to come in.
One would imagine so for the Hamilton Test. His first test it would be if he does. A rib injury or an intercostal which is what we understand that Trent Bolt may have, is not something to be trifled with.
No, I mean I'd be flabbergasted if you can recover sufficiently. If you can't bowl on a fifth day on a pitch like this when you're going for the win, but you can bowl 5 days later, I mean, inconceivable.
Possibly. I don't think you're using that word. What's the Princess Bride phrase?
Round the wicket comes South. This is edged by Ben Stokes, who was taking the bat away from the ball when it took the edge. It still went quite quickly, but because he was withdrawing the bat, it went down more than across, so it was no chance. But again, Ben Stokes, slight lack of judgment there, because he's playing that ball on about a 7th stump line, which he only realised at the last moment when he started to withdraw the bat.
It's that angle, isn't it, from Southey round the wicket. He's not quite sure whether to play or leave. In the end, he ends up leaving it for 4.
Yes, left for 4.
Seen a little bit of that. Sorry, yes, inconceivable. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. The quote from the print. You not seen The Princess Bride?
No, I haven't. It's another film I need to see. This ball is a tighter line, defended by Stokes, and it's fielded in the gully. Oh, I take it as Kane Williamson, because he's usually around the gully and backward point
mid-off
area.
most of this test.
Has he? Because he always used to be sort of in a John T. Rhodes position, didn't he?
I mean, he's brilliant in the gully. He's taken some absolutely superb
Screamers.
catches. Yeah. That's another thing that New Zealand miss. Obviously, Trent Bolt, a very fine bowler, but one of the world's very best fielders.
I think I'm happy to be corrected, but for me, inconceivable is a bit like unimaginable, that which cannot be even considered. As Southey's in, this is defended by Ben Stokes, and he does present the full face.
I wasn't actually calling you up on it. It was just you said the word, and the quote popped into my head.
Oh, I see. Fair enough. I do need to see The Princess Bride, because so many people quote so much from it, and I haven't seen it. I did look it up on Just Watch, which will give you where any film is streamable, and it wasn't available to stream at the moment. We have your tweets, though. They're available to stream.
We do, but we don't have any at the moment. So I can make up tweets, though. So questions.
Well, what do we got on YouTube and Facebook?
Well, at the moment, nothing on YouTube, and I will go through Facebook as well. But so far, we absolutely appreciate your tweets and comments coming through, and it would be good to maybe be good to update just the GPL.
Mitchell Santner is round the wicket. That's flighted there, but it's very full, and Denley could have cover-driven that, I think, but decided to defend.
We had 3 GPL entries, 155, 160 and 195, everyone going lower, obviously with England's very cautious start, and run scoring only a mild concern for England at the moment.
Santner's in again, and this is allowed to go by Joe Denley, and there is no run. I think this is where Joe Denley must have saved a few matches in his long county career, or he must have been in the position of seeing out a 4th day. I don't know how many times he's done it. You would need a Zaltzman-like command of databases to get that. As Santner's in again, goes very wide, and actually the angle was too much. It got it down the leg side, but it's fielded by Neil Wagner at square leg.
Again, serious drift. Santner's bowling from very wide on the crease, and that drifted from outside off stump to leg stump.
Yeah, he's doing a passable imitation of Ravindra Jadeja here. Maybe not quite as quick through the air as Jadeja, although that one was, and it's just pushed to the mat at mid-on, and there is no run.
Slightly wider sort of arm action as well that he's doing, but he gets some good drift at the moment. And
the wind, I think, helps, although it doesn't look as windy as it has been in other days there. But you just expect, rather like where I grew up in Liverpool, it's just windy all the time in New Zealand. This ball is defended. There is no run. Of course, are we going to the Windy City?
No, it's Hamilton.
It's Hamilton, yes.
For the second test.
Yes.
But yeah, it was one of the T20s was not at the Basin Reserve, but at the Cape Tin in Wellington, and they had to replace the bales with the heavy bales.
Yes, the heavy bales. Call for the heavy bales. As this is a much slower ball for Mitchell Santner, and it's defended by Joe Denley, who now has brought up Nelson number of deliveries. And I hope I'm right in saying that 0-0-0-0-0-0 means that was a maiden. Santner now has figures of 3 for 28 from his 26 overs, and he's still got quite a bit of work to do. Just caught a sight of Tom Latham there under the shade. He didn't half look like Mark Ramprakash, because Ramprakash is there because he's doing something for an alternative comedy, an alternative radio.
Mark Ramprakash, of course, was recently sacked as England batting coach.
Yeah, there was some word he was going to get the gig at Sri Lanka, but I think they've given it to somebody else. And but yes, I just wondered for one moment it wasn't a kind of Dermot Reeves' mum situation where New Zealanders shorn of Trent Boult had to bring in England's dancing master Mark Ramprakash to do a bit of fielding, but I'm sure it was Tom Latham. So there's a wide sort of fourth slip and a gully, but no first or second slip. And that ball sits up to be hit, and Ben Stokes hits it. It goes out to mid-wicket, where Harvey Nichols there, always a pleasing sight in the run up to Christmas, does the fielding, and they're through for 2. Each batsman now has 23. Stokes from 73 deliveries, Denley from a Nelson 1-1-1. In fact, it was just a single, wasn't it, there?
Yeah, yes, Joe Denley bringing up his 3rd Cowan ton in a row, his 6th in 8 innings. Actually, yeah, he's talking about his run. He scored 3 50s in his last 4 innings, 5 in his last 6. Joe Denley?
Yes, he's beginning to get the hang of it. Maybe that's a bit condescending. He has, I think, the hang of Test cricket. He's got to do what lots of batsmen struggle to do early in their careers, which is convert from 50s to 100. Southey's in again with a little more purpose than he had in the previous over, but perhaps in striving for a bit of extra pace, which he did get. He's up to 130. He lost his line a little, and Denley was able just to clip it with a minimum of fuss to deep backward square.
That's got to be annoying for Southey, because they'd set this field for Denley, where they had the sort of on Hayden and the off Hayden in 2 men very short, close to the cut strip on either side, or one on each side. And you're looking to try and get Denley pushing and driving, but if you just then give him a leg stump half volley to get off them, like all of your plans go out the window.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of talk about how tired England's bowlers will be, but we shouldn't forget that England did have quite an extensive first innings, and they're now in the 65th over of the second innings. These New Zealanders, especially a bowler down with Trent Boult incapacitated, are going to be feeling it themselves, and Ben Stokes just lets that one go through to the keeper. So I think already Southey, he's only been bowling for about 20 minutes. He's either side of the wicket here, and he looks labouring a little. It's only in his 11th over.
Yeah, bowled quite a few overs in the first innings.
Yeah.
Took a 4-foot, didn't bowl brilliantly, but got the ball to swing.
Was on a hat-trick. Southey's again round the wicket to Ben Stokes. It's a better ball, but it almost seems with Stokes, if you bowl that sort of fourth stump line, he's so good at the technical side of the game that the elbow is so high, the bat is presented so straight, the head is over the ball. You almost feel like you're kind of bowling it into exactly where he wants the ball. You almost feel like the more dangerous delivery for Stokes is the one that just tempts him on a 6th or 7th stump rather than a 4th or 5th.
There's a little bit of a slash, but particularly if it's slightly back of a length, because he does slightly camp on the back foot.
He does. Stokes. Southey's in again. He goes slightly wider, and this ball shoots off again. I can only suspect was a crack, and a ball that looked like it was a kind of a 5th or 6th stump line ended up with BJ Watling diving way over to the leg side, because it really did take off and go sideways almost off the pitch there. But it was so wide, and Stokes was leaving it. But what that'll do to Stokes is it'll just remind him that there's some caprice in this pitch, and therefore leaving a ball perhaps even as wide as 6th stump may not be entirely wise.
I wonder if Southey might go even wider on the crease this time, trying to bring the outside edge into play.
Yes, the last ball of the over, he needs to make this count, and he does. There is the slash from Ben Stokes, because that ball was slightly shorter. It got up a little bit, and it took a top edge, but I think the previous ball was what induced that stroke there, because I think he was going for that shot regardless. And fortuitous, not for the first time in my commentary stint, a fortuitous fall for Ben Stokes.
2 + 2 is on man.
Did BJ Watling get a hand on that?
At best, he was deharing it over the bar. But I do think that the line to Stokes has got to be quite wide here. If they concede, if they can concede 10 fours to Ben Stokes, it's not going to make any difference. But they've got to go wide, I think, to him and just play on his patience.
Yeah. I mean, in truth, that wasn't a particularly good ball. It was there for the cut.
It did bounce, though. It did get
way
high.
over Watling, never mind.
Yeah.
Well, you follow the golden rule. If you're going to slash hard.
Yeah, which is true, but I don't know. I'd be very tempted to have a fly slip, a couple of men wide there as Santner's in again. This is defended, no run. He just looks so good on fourth stump and on the stumps, and he just looks like he's chomping at the bit. One of the very few things you can chomp at is the bit, but he seems like he's chomping at the bit when the ball is in that wide have a slash area. And Satnav's in again to Denley. It's defended, no run. We're going to come to your tweets at the end of the over if you've been good enough to
Mitchell
send us
Santner bowled, I think, 4 overs. No, it was yesterday. I think he was in his 8th over, I think, when he took the last wicket yesterday. And he's bowled sort of 24 or so on the trot today, pretty much with one. Spinners do get tired.
Yeah, they do get tired, but it's his match, isn't it, as this bowler's defended no run. If he's not keen, having made a 100 a career high, as I understand, not just a test high, and then with a pitch like this in New Zealand to bowl on with 3 wickets in the bank, I think I would summon the energy. But I do know what you mean.
Yeah, I mean, he can't bowl indefinitely.
In instances, I think Bisham Beatty probably bowled for 3 days at Eden Gardens at some point. But yeah, this ball is very full, and Denley lets that go on line. And I mean, that shows England's mindset there, because he could probably have stepped forward and taken that on the full and hit it through the covers. But once he could see that he could leave it on line, he was always leaving it regardless of length. And I think that's wise. Runs, if they're on offer, take them. But if you can leave the ball, leave it. As this ball is defended into the leg side and they jog an easy single. What they've got to be careful of, I think, is at the other end, where I think it's Tim Southey who's aiming for the cracks. I may be wrong, but we've certainly seen more misbehaviour from Southey. Southey's end.
We have word that Trent Bolt will not take any further part in the match. I think that's probably not a surprise if it is a rib injury. So Matt Henry or someone, possibly he and Tom Blundell, might rotate as the sub fielder, but there will be no Trent Bolt. So that makes England's task that bit easier.
Yeah, it's taken a bowling option, and a good bowling option away, as this ball is very full. And Stokes, there's that camping on the back foot point you were making, Knuckle, because he went back to that one that was very full and still got a bat on it. Your tweets.
One from Adelaide Barmies. Inconceivable. Ha 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 ha. Classic line. So thanks for that. Umpire Ian Bell. Here's a tweet. And it's just literally just says here's a tweet, so there's nothing else to it. So that's some nice there. Gary Murphy. Just a shout out to my girlfriend, SCN Holden 24, for putting up with me listening while in bed. Thank you. We appreciate all the more listeners that are out there. Dave Dorrell. Lol, I read Wanga instead of Wagner and had a very different picture. Okay, fair enough. And Adelaide Barm is just, I think, quoting from the movie, I'd take it. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Yep. The big final set piece of The Princess Bride. As semi-parodied in the Oberyn Martell, the mountain fight sequence in Game of Thrones.
Also like to welcome Tamim joining Facebook. Bhaskar Karakoti, who says Indian team is his favourite. Malik Yuka Putti, which is good morning. And also Linto Joseph, also good morning.
Welcome all.
Over the wicket is Santner to Stokes, and Ben Stokes leaves that on about a 5th or 6th stump line, which I think is where to attack him, as I've said a few times.
That was Denley.
Oh, sorry, it's Denley. Yes, of course. Dear me. I've been at work for an 8-hour shift, so I am going to make mistakes. But I should be able to identify, because one's right, one's left, and Ben Stokes is about 3 inches taller and probably about 10 kilos heavier than Joe Denley. But Southey, who's got his own little Nelson in play with 11.1 overs so far bowled in this innings, and he leaves that, does Denley, and that's quite a tight leave, and we've seen the ball jag about from Southey. I think you've got to be a little more circumspect than that, Joe.
The leave is fine, but it's not as though he covered anything. He covered the off stump with the pad or with the second line of defence. It was
It was a loose leave.
It was a leave with the eggs all in one basket.
Yes, a loose leave, which I used to get at Christmas as a diary. They were always called loose leave diaries or loose leaf diaries. I'm not quite
It's
sure
a type,
why.
of, it's a type of tea, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it can be a type of tea as well. I'll come back to that point in a moment as Southey is in. This is very full, and Denley defends the full ball and squirts it off sort of half an outside edge, and Tom Latham rampreciously goes back to backward point, and they're through for two.
Honestly, I'm not seeing the Ramprakash connection myself.
It was just the way the camera caught him. There was something in the hair, something in the shades.
Ramprakash then and now very slim.
Oh yes, absolutely. And Latham is much more. It was only in the face, because Latham is much stockier. He's built like a more of a kind of prop forward in the days when prop forwards looked like prop forwards instead of athletes as they do now. And this ball is full. That's a stronger shot from Denley. It's a push that's gone square of the wicket, and they're through for two. I think Saudi's coming off at the end of this over.
It may well be, probably for Wagner. That's the 50 partnership up between these two of 144 balls. Good, well done by Denley and Stokes.
Yeah.
Denley again showing his value in this situation. It was he and Root set up Stokes at Headingley with their partnership on at the end of day 3, wasn't it? In the end,
yeah. I mean, he's pretty much defining the words unfussy, isn't he, Denley? He's just gone and done the fist tap there to celebrate the 50 with Ben Stokes, and he barely raised a hand there. He does everything in a rather understated way, and he might be one ton away from being a cult hero, Denley, because he does look like what was it? You'll know the quote, Knackle. The accountant who went to war, or
the bank clark who went
to war. The bank clerk who
David
went to war, David Steele. He has a touch of the Steele self-effacement about his play. He'll probably get caught in a tiger moth next week, but still. This is outside off stump, and it's through to BJ Watling, and there is no run.
I sort of started saying this test by saying he's done all right, the Joe Denley story.
Yeah, very good.
You know, you'll look at. I mean, unless he gets that ton or a couple, or a couple of tons, particularly in match-winning tons, he'll sort of be not quite remembered. You'll look back in his career and say, yeah, he did all right, but with that slight air of surprise. And certainly his crease occupation has been admirable for the last several tests.
He's caged in now by a kind of three-quarter cage of close fielders in a ring, but he just defends this into the ground. Southey half stops it, but gets enough on it to prevent the run. England are 120 for 4. As I say, the partnership is 41. England still trail by 142 runs.
They've had that field with the 3 men up on the offside pretty much all test match. That straight drive was an encouraging sign, because they've had point open pretty much for the whole of, not the whole of the innings or the whole of the day, but certainly half of the morning session. And Denley's now feeling confident enough to play that square drive, opening the face, rather than just playing the net drive and hoping he misses the cover fielders.
They did look a little closer there. They looked a little bit more intimidating, a little more caged in, rather than slightly on their heels, giving away singles, as we saw in the couple of overs after lunch. I'm just looking at time. Knuckle, are you...
we'll have a change at the end of the over.
At the end of the over. Good. So I'll defer to your rota, which is somewhere, I'm sure.
One tweet from Neil Franklin. Guerrilla Cricket, it's made a change, the pace at which this match is being played. Don't know whether it's harder to commentate on, but it feels more relaxed, more grown up right now.
Yeah, well, it's
a bit of both.
Yeah, cricket, the pace of a cricket match, I'll come back to that in a moment, Santner slightly delays the action, I felt there, and the ball sort of scooted down to Stokes. It was a half volley again that was defended. I mean, we often think of the pace of a cricket match being determined by the batsman, but sometimes it's determined by the bowlers. And here, the bowlers are probing away here, and the captain's trying to make decisions. He's got a new ball that's still a little distant, but not over the horizon. As Stokes takes a single, that's good work, hitting it to the left hand, right hand of the captain there. And taking
interesting you mentioned the new ball, because that maybe then Wagner won't be the next bowling change. It might be de Grandon.
Well, I wondered whether you might give Wagner just a couple, because you could give him a couple and just have a go, and then he could still have he could still have, a 40-minute rest.
Or do you give Southey and de Grandhomme the new bowl, with de Grandhomme's ability to nibble the ball around?
Yeah, there's definitely a case for that. As Santner is in, this is very flighted. It's another half volley that's defended by Denley. I'm just slightly worried here. By defending all of these half volleys, it's giving a license for Santner just to lob it right up there.
The dip there has saved him, because Denley a couple of times he's shaped for what looks like a full toss, but then it's dipped on him, so he's had to check the stroke.
Santner's in again, and this is very full again, and it's just defended really to the man at mid-on. I just want to say about Mitchell Santner's hair. It looks like it's been lowered onto his head from a great height.
We were talking about this earlier.
It looks so solid.
There's a Mikel Arteta vibe to Mitchell Santner's hair. It just doesn't move.
Yeah, definitely. He's in again, and it's very much flight. It's a half volley. In fact, so much of a half volley that it was almost a Yorker, and then he kind of digs it out. In the big book of cricket commentating, all Yorkers must be dug out, as we
or
know.
Squeezed out, perhaps, if they go square of the wicket. Yeah, the change will be Pralab is going to go onto ball by ball, Gary's going to come onto jingle, and the looming figure of Steve Jones is going to come onto tweets.
As this ball is flashed to the man at mid-off, who is the captain, Kane Williamson. It's the end of the over. England are 121 for 4 off 68. They trail by 141.
And via the dulcet tones of Rihanna, we'll beg for money.
Yep. You owe us all right. You think this alternative cricket commentary stuff comes cheap? Well, we need some dollar bills to help pay our bills. So please, go to patreon.com/Gorilla Cricket and sign up to make a regular monthly donation. You know there is literally nothing like Gorilla Cricket's coverage, so don't be tight. Dip into your virtual pocket and throw some cash our way. See, Rihanna knows. Patreon.com/Gorilla Cricket.
Pay me what you want it.
Welcome back, and we certainly do appreciate any support you can provide us. Please do check the website out as Southey runs into bowl. And his delivery is just defended off the front foot into short cover. Welcome everyone. We've got first session after lunch there, Steve. How you feeling?
Very good. And the good news is we got through half an hour without losing another wicket, so the draw looms ever closer.
Ever so close. It's that sort of, I mean, as we all know, in a lot of these matches, that last session's where everything tends to go down. But
Yes.
Stokes, Denley, they're both looking good. And what's positive for England is you haven't seen any of that variable bounce this session so far. This next delivery just rushes Stokes a bit and cuts into him, but he defends it off the front foot to point for no run.
And a draw here is like really critical, because it sets up a showdown in the if dare one say the last of a 2-test series. But it's not like it's a 3-test series where if you get beat you could come back, but if England lose this, then they can't win the series. So it's quite important to get the draw here.
It is important, mate, with everything to play for in that last match, if they can pull off a mesmerising draw. But Southey has other plans. This next delivery stays a bit low, so we start to see a bit of that variable bounce where Stokes brought his bat out, but the ball actually went underneath the bat, and Watling has a good take in the end. Well bowl, yeah, we just see that ball just half bounced, and I think if he just pushes it towards that stump, so possibly that forward stump line, he's got every chance of getting that sneaking through Stokes' defences, shattering that stump.
It's just so slow. He's not at full pace. Obviously, he's quite deep into his spell now, and also the pitch is slow. So you do get the idea that Stokes may be able to adjust, and that's where Wagner's perhaps a little bit of extra pace would be handy.
As this next delivery is cut and
out.
bowled him. He's got him. So this next delivery has been cut outside the off stump, takes the bottom edge and ends up clipping the bail off the leg stump, and Stokes has to depart.
Yes, I'm afraid I did rather call that in the on the slash horizontal bat. And
the obligatory no ball check is unfortunately in no respite for Stokes, and he will have to leave.
Shall we give him a full jingle?
We should give him a full jingle.
So get on your bike and take a hike right out of here. Your history, no good for me. Your history, nah.
it's going to be a bit of a challenge now for England, particularly as I felt Stokes certainly changed the momentum in the game, more in the sense of just shifting the mindset from being it's a bowler's game to them dictating it to being one where the batsman is also partly in the game, shifting the field around.
Well, here's a man who might be about to make the most important 37 not out of his career.
Now, Steve, what do you make of that shot, Steve?
Not his finest hour, unfortunately. It's a little bit like it's only just clipped the bell, isn't it? So, those are...
it wasn't even a horizontal bat shot. It was an attempt at a horizontal bat shot because it was pretty much 45 degrees and his weight was neither forward nor back. There was a lot technically wrong with that, and you just had the feeling that when he presented the straight bat, he looked very good, but as soon as he was attempting the cut or the slash, he was in trouble, and he had enough warnings about it. The previous over, I think he top edged one over the keeper's head. This time it was a bottom edge. So really, that's, one hesitates to criticise Ben Stokes, and he was doing a lot of bowling and everything else, but that was, in these circumstances, that was a pretty poor shot.
It was a long way outside off stump. He could have left it.
Pope's been greeted with a inner ring field that's just surrounding at the moment. This first delivery is just left alone by Pope there, but he's got a short cover. Very hard for him to find anything outside the off stump, and I think Pope will be less likely to do that anyway at the start of his innings. But they're all gearing up for him. An early dismissal there.
It was a lovely leave from Pope because it was so positive. He put the front foot down and then raised the bat very high. His movements were all accurate and swift. And I think it was Duncan Fletcher used to talk about the positive leave, and it's an important aspect of batting.
It certainly is, as this next delivery is full and just defended again quite positively from Pope all the way onto mid-on. And we've almost got a short cover and another fielder standing right next to him, so anything that's going to be driven even slightly in the air is likely to get it caught. We've got a wicket maiden as well, so Southee strikes.
Just wanted to say that I don't know if you noticed that Wagner threw that ball quite hard into the ground. It bounced a couple of times, I think, before it was picked up by the keeper. And I just wonder if...
Trying to scuff it, doing it?
Trying to scuff it, but also maybe trying to soften it up to increase the kind of low bounce that might be going through. I just wonder whether they might continue with this ball a little bit longer if they're seeing the ball squat.
Well, we haven't seen... I mean, what was interesting in the first session was you saw Denley, even Root to some extent, they were batting quite outside their crease to negate any potential swing that we saw, versus Stokes, you saw quite... in that last delivery, right? He's been batting in his crease and the ball has not been moving at all. So you might be onto something there regarding how they can change the calibre of the ball, legally, of course.
Because you're not supposed to throw the ball into the wicket, but
whether
Wagner
it's a habit,
very clearly did there.
As Santner comes into bowl, his delivery is just left alone, with Denley getting well across with his pads.
Let me give you some messages.
Yes.
Message Jez, morning all, congratulations on being awake still. It's a pleasure, Jez.
Well, that last wicket certainly helped spark all of us here. And
this next ball.
We'll get to the next one after this next delivery. Stantner comes in, this ball's a lot more closer to the stumps and defended off the front foot by Denley for no run.
Message Jez continues, I know Gary Naylor is back on air and I hear mention of Caprice, and it's not a model of car.
Certainly is the case. Denley, 129 balls face. He's a senior man right now, and he's comfortable defending this next delivery with the full face of the back, hitting the middle all the way down for no run. Santner, 3 for 30 off his in his 29th over. If he can get to that 30 over mark with no more runs, he'll get this amazing economy rate, which you'll find in Poundland, of just a pound, or just 1 per over, as this next delivery is drifted up a lot more and defended again by Denley. And he certainly let a few of these loopy half volleys go for no run, which is must give Santner the ability to keep bowling them with the full knowledge that he's getting no runs taken off them. But that's 4 dot balls this over, as Denley leaves this next delivery. That's just left alone and spins past Denley, past the outstretched pad that he had over there for no run.
Yes, I always feel like kind of Headley Verity bowling figures when your number of overs aligns with the runs conceded. I think Stuart Broad was a bit Verity-esque in the first innings.
Let's see if we can pull off a maiden. This last delivery is again defended, this time into the leg side, but it'll go all the way to the steaming in, running in mid-on for no run. And that's the end of the over. England 121 for 5.
Mog texts tweets to say, I renewed my subscription to the archive the other day. Spend those £20 wisely. I'm sure we will.
I've got some ideas about how we might want to spend some of your money. I'm going to be conversing with the bear about it.
And Ravine, you've upset him, by the way. Because you took Stokes' wicket, so...
right.
He's blaming you. And Forsyth has come in with doomed. And
We've
Mog
got the
says,
doom and gloom.
did I censor that jingle or did you? Question mark. So.
Well, I'm looking at a jingle which says Ollie Pope brackets censored version. So, and you know, the bear can be quite liberal with his censorship. It usually has to be pretty bad for him to do that. But that's what he's done.
This next delivery is a full delivery that is just driven out.
Knuckle is laying claim to the Lord Chancellor's Office of Censorship.
Excellent. So the Knuckle has overridden the bear in that one.
But,
and if is anyone to listen to uncensored version if you're a patron? I'm not sure if the answer is yes or no to that, but feel free to sign on to find out if that is possible or not.
Messi Jez tweets to bring a bit of balance to it, saying Steve's mention of heading towards the draw brings the expected reward. So he's clearly blaming me for the loss of the Stokes wicket.
The loss, well, I'll tell you what, I mean, it's still very doable.
I was busy getting Saudi off as well.
Here he is.
Saudi runs into ball. It's a nice full delivery. No. There's a half-hearted appeal for LBW.
Down the leg
it looked
side.
Down the leg side. Durham seems to agree with that. I'd say Saudi, in all honesty, agree with that as well, because it was one of those. I'm sort of going to appeal because I'm expected to. And he did end up appealing, but there is no run. There's a DRS timer that kicks in, but won't be reviewing that one.
So there's no side does unconvincing appealing quite as well as New Zealand do it.
Yeah, but the good news is that last delivery showed there is some swing now, so which is very nice to see, and it will appease Southey there that he's actually got the ball to move in quite significantly. Delivery.
Back in the days of Brian Johnson, old breaker.
This next delivery just pushed out towards mid wicket for no run.
They used to call appeals like that a polite inquiry.
Yes.
And the New Zealanders do the polite inquiry quite well. I think it might just have hit another set of stumps down the leg side, but maybe not.
I mean, there was either India-Bangladesh game or one of the games this week where the bowler barely appealed and the umpire just haven't managed to give it out. It was one of those interesting LBW calls, which was clearly out, but just no one kind of went up in the air about it.
And Hendo's...
So you never know. If you don't appeal, you don't get any responses to it. This next delivery, just a solidly, Pope just brings onto it. He's 6 balls without a run. Stokes was, about 30-odd balls before he got his first run?
About that. He's in the 20s.
But I would say Pope would struggle with that a lot more than Stokes with his relative inexperience.
Newness, yes.
To the crease.
He's a calm head, though. He's a young man, but here comes the cliche. An old head on young shoulders.
Let's see if
cliche alert. Have we got a cliche alert jingle?
We should have, especially if I'm on it, Mike.
As Southey comes into bowler's delivery in cutter, that's just defended off the front foot, and one of the 5 fielders that's just in close around that ring is happy to pick that up and give it back to the bowler.
Hendo has tweeted, it's not turning much, it's not hooping around corners, and it's hardly seaming. Yet we're 120 for 5. We really don't deserve to get out of this, do we?
It is going up and down a little bit, though, Hendo, so...
Yeah, I mean,
look, there's the voice of reason.
It is a voice. But if you had to pick a 5th-day pitch, you'd probably pick something like this than some of the other ones you see in other countries and other pitches to survive a day on. And this next delivery is just defended out towards point, and they steal. Well, I don't think steal is the right word. There was always a single there, but it was a bit of hesitation between Denley and Pope, which meant at one point had they sort of stopped mid pitch, they could have been a run out opportunity.
They were
but
trying to make it
comfortably
hard for
the,
themselves, weren't they?
They were.
Yeah.
I think Joe Denley was playing county cricket when Ollie Pope was probably still in primary school, so there may just be a little bit of communication work to be done between these two. I'm sure they haven't batted together, and I suspect they haven't been on the same field together very often.
Yeah, it's always an interesting one when you've got an opener coming in and just sort of carrying the innings for a long period of time and getting the opportunity to bat with people they probably wouldn't bat with in nets or even practice games, and seeing whether that translates into any run-out opportunities that may exist. I'd say like part of England's challenges were just the wickets they lost yesterday, which always changes the dynamic a bit when you come into the next day, and particularly you were talking about Leach. It's just losing that wicket, and he's someone who in the last sort of, if there were 5 or 6 overs left, you'd be a useful figure to have at the end of the innings. The Santner comes in and Pope just leaves that delivery.
Well,
he's on one now.
Yeah, I think also actually had he survived last night, he's the type of bloke who'd have probably sort of hung around for sort of 10, 15 overs at the start of this day, and that's a big chunk out of the 90 that we're going to be bowling.
Absolutely.
Just saw a paraglider there.
Good, didn't it? Wow.
It did look good. I'll come back to it.
Its next ball is just defended, no run.
But it looked for all the world like it was going to crash into Mount Maunganui, a bit like that scene in Catch-22, but he didn't.
No,
he went round the back.
Just getting a good preview of the cricket.
And he's probably crashed round the back, but
he might have done.
Sure, they're perfectly fine. Santner drifts his balls up into a Yorker or a half volley, I'd say. That's defended. Back to Santner.
Mock sends some clarification. That Pope jingle was Knackle's idea, so I guess he can censor as he sees fit.
Well, Mark, your generosity knows no bounds.
As Santner comes into bowl, another delivery. This time it turns on him, and Pope is slightly out of position with that one, but he managed to find the middle of the bat. But his footwork wasn't as sound as the last few deliveries.
What was good about it, though, is he still presented the full face there. It was a little bit of curtain railing going on, but he didn't close the face. It must have been very tempting to close the face on it. That's why he needs a leg slip, Mitchell Santner. He really needs a leg slip, you know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with that field position. This next delivery, Pope just pulls out of it. He wasn't ready with Santner running in, so he'll reassess this time and see what he can do with this next delivery. Will he give Santner 30 overs with 30 runs, or will he take a few runs off him to ruin his figures? And he's left this delivery.
No,
it's hitting outside the off stump.
Doesn't matter.
So that was a
doesn't matter.
error in judgment in the sense that he should not have left that completely.
It doesn't matter because he didn't play a shot. So
but it was
that won't.
It
Well,
was
it's not
missing.
going to hit off
it
stump.
wasn't hit the stump.
But you're right. Yeah, there was no shot offered. Just to give you an idea.
And the New
listeners at
Zealanders
home,
agree as well. So.
He basically, Pope ended up leaving this delivery completely, padding up to it. It ended up spinning in. It was probably towards the 4th or 5th stump. So 4.5 stumps, which means it would not have gone in the stumps. But where it shows is an error of judgment in Pope, where he's just struggled with that delivery and hasn't read the right length or the line on that one quite well. And this last delivery, he's just happy to leave away. It spins away from him well wide.
Or you could say he judged it really, really well.
So somewhere in the world, perhaps in Australia, Darryl Hare is giving that out.
He's looking going, that one's out, definitely. That's the end of the over. A maiden for Santner, which means 30 overs, 3 for 30. Well bowled.
Any tweets?
No, actually, everyone's gone a little bit quiet. We're right up to date.
One up to date.
You can tweet us at Gorilla Cricket. Oh, there's the mythical Saltworks, which I've heard so much about on the radio.
Mythical?
Well, they seemed mythical on the radio, but there they are, large as life.
And we've got a new bowler.
We do have a new
in.
bowler.
This man.
And I think this is a good move with a ball that's going to do a little bit.
That's Neil Wagner. He's my boss. And when he takes 5 wickets in an over, it was Moida.
Yeah, when I say it's going to do a bit, it's going to do a little bit up and down, and I think Wagner does want to soften this ball up, turn it into a bit of old ropey bit of cork and leather, and see a few scoot through low. He's got the Movember moustache.
He does. He's got a slip and a short leg in, so let's see what sort of line he ends up bowling. And this is a full delivery that's driven past the fielder, so they've got a bit more of a gap now, and they should come back for 2. And they do, as it's cut off out in the deep there. He's also got a man just almost adjacent to the pitch, just on the offside, into a very short kind of cover, just for that ball that may end up popping up off the bat, I'd say, or slightly half driven to that fielder there. But so far,
confident shot though.
It is confident, and I think it's a sign where that ring fielder that they have for Pope isn't as tight as it has been for other batsmen. I mean, now they're sort of bringing him in a bit for Denley. We've got another man coming into cover with some coverage behind him in case it does go past him. Although no, they're bringing him in as well, so which means they've got that ring now to Denley, as well as that short leg. And this delivery is left alone outside the off stump, probably at the 5th stump line, so no need to play it that way.
You see, I'd be so inclined to have a leg slip because it just encourages your bowler to bowl the odd one at the stumps, knowing that the batsman can't just sort of nurdle it off the hip and because he's got a leg slip in there. And runs now 138. England are not going to score 138 before the close, so I think the runs equation is out now. So he can attack as much as he likes, Kane Williamson here.
As Wagner comes to bowl a short delivery that just Denley comfortably ducks underneath. So you'd bring the fine leg up into a leg slip?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely just not allow the right-hander just to nudge a short one off the hip and get off straight. Wagner's pulling up here.
No.
It'll be interesting to see if his run-up shortened. New Zealand would not want any issues, although he seems to be running in okay with this next delivery. As this next ball comes in, it's a bit fuller, but comfortably defended.
We have some odds. Steve Aldersley. New Zealand are 6-5 on. The draw is 10-9 on, and England are 200 to 1. Presumably, that's if New Zealand concede.
Yeah, 200,000 to 1.
You need a very sporting declaration from Kane Williamson.
Jeff Perkins.
If there were any chance.
Declare the defeated. That's what we have to do.
I don't think that will be happening there.
To what?
As Wagner runs into bowl a wide delivery outside there. Just poor bowling here. Just well wide outside the off stump. You can comfortably leave these, and Denley's ever so happy to do so.
I think New Zealand played their first Test match in 1930. I think it was. I'm not absolutely.
I wasn't there. So.
But it's the kind of thing that might happen in one of those tours where they say, look, we haven't got it in the 5 days. We'll play an extra day and see if we can get a result. That's the only way England can win.
I imagine those days it would have been the timeless and the era of the timeless test.
So it might be right.
Keep on playing. As Wagner runs into bowl. This delivery is a better length and a better line there. Sorry, I wouldn't say length. I'd say the line was quite good. It forced him to play, but a bit too short for him. And Wagner just having a bit of he's kicking into the pitch just near the wicket. And I think he's a bit annoyed by a bit of the run-up. It seems to be sort of frustrating his run-up at the moment. So he's almost trying to get the dirt to go back into that ground.
I think the stump mic has just exploded.
So he's not happy with that.
Someone give him a spade.
Yeah, but I think what Wagner does is he likes to get himself wound up, doesn't he? Who was the Steve Kirby, wasn't it? The Yorkshireman. Apparently, he was the nicest bloke you could ever meet until he got the white line fever, and he had to get himself really worked up before he could bowl. And I've got a feeling Wagner might be sort of the same ilk. If he gets himself wound up about something, foot marks, a misfield, whatever it is.
It's extraordinary.
I'll tell you what, the pitch curator's
like
not
a
going to be happy
rutting
with that one. As a Saturn comes in, this delivery defended comfortably, but probably at the higher point of the bat than Pope would have liked. But he still played that well enough to hit it straight into the ground. So he's got a lot of fielders in close around him. Basically, every fielder just moved in a few steps in line with the fact he's on 1 at the moment, still relatively new to the crease. As this next delivery is just defended off the back foot for no run into the silly point. A slip in there, I believe a gully 2 and a short leg that he's currently contending with.
Jeff Perkins sums it up very nicely, actually. The knackle giveth and the knackle taketh away.
This is the music, by the way, we needed. I'll break off for a minute. The music we needed to accompany Wagner.
We'll do that next. As this next story, he's happy to go on the back foot and hit it straight into short leg.
So.
What it needed was him to, while he's kicking into the dirt, would just fall over.
Yeah.
And that would be perfect, that music right there. or with the umpire chasing and going, "What are you doing out there? You're ruining my pitch. I will warn you for this activity that you're doing." As Santner comes in, this delivery is a good one actually. Slightly shorter of a length, and it ends up turning, and Pope still comfortably plays that. He guides that out with the edge of the bat out towards gully for no run.
We should mention that we're about 20 minutes or so away from the new ball being available. I remain sceptical as to whether they're going to take it, but the new ball will be available at 80 overs. We're now in the 74th.
As this next ball is cut furiously by Pope. He just gets into position really well, and he pierces a gap between point and cover, and that will be 4 runs.
The number of the day. Who could ask for more? The number of the day is 4.
Now, Pope cuts like a wicket-keeper. He was a wicket-keeper in his early days, and you can see the kind of wicket-keeper cutting there. He does play that shot particularly well. He's a small man, short levers, and he always looked better cutting than men like Ben Stokes. Much taller.
This is a wide delivery that actually drifts in all the way to the 5th stump line, and then kind of spins away and ends up just being left alone. And England trail by 134 runs.
Do you think Santner needs a break here because he's getting a little bit predictable? I mean, it was so obvious that after the being square cut, he was going to toss it out there and say, "Have another go." And Pope was almost had the bat under his arm, saying, "I'm not playing at that."
Yeah, I think he just. I don't actually think he needs to be let go. He's bowling reasonably well, and we'll have a change at the end of
the next over.
We'll do it now, actually. In fact, we'll have that commentary change now, and I will. Maybe if there's any tweets to read. No, there's not. I'll continue chatting until new people come in.
Yep. You owe us all right. You think this alternative cricket commentary stuff comes cheap? Well, we need some dollar bills to help pay our bills, so please go to patreon.com/Gorilla Cricket and sign up to make a regular monthly donation. You know there is literally nothing like Gorilla Cricket's coverage, so don't be tight. Dip into your virtual pocket and throw some cash our way. See, Rihanna knows. Patreon.com/Gorilla Cricket.
Pay me what you want it.
We were talking about this a little bit earlier when I was on comms just after the lunch break, and Gary just mentioned it there. Whether New Zealand will indeed take the new ball as soon as it's available in 6 overs. Obviously, one of their new ball bowlers, Trent Boult, is unavailable to them. What do we think?
Well, actually, at the lunchtime interview, when they were talking with Smith and Atherton and co, they were fairly convinced that the new ball is going to be quite key. I can't see any reason why they would want to take it.
It'll kind of depend on what's happening with the ball the next 10 overs. If you see a bit more swing coming in and reverse, you may consider delaying it. But it also, there's no reason why Santner can't bowl well the new ball as well. With the extra hardness on the cracks might actually help his bowling. So I still expect him to come into the attack very quickly once the new ball's taken.
Yeah, I mean, Wagner's come on for a little burst with the old ball. Remains to be seen how long that's going to be. He's just bowled the 1 over in this spell. Southey will obviously take the new ball at one end. I wonder if they will give it to Colin de Grandhomme at the other.
Yeah, I think they've got to give Santner a little bit of a break at some point as well. So
I mean, there will be that tea break coming in the middle.
They're finishing off the repair work to the pitch that Wagner started with his foot, and he's coming over to have a look at it.
He's going to do his own one. He's going to put his foot in it.
This is how you do it, he's saying.
I'm not sure if that helped. The hammer went in about 4 times, and then Wagner's foot in went once or twice.
Hammer was doing a good
It's
job.
like when a penalty taker is unhappy with the penalty spot, just digging at it. Yeah, and I've never seen a fast bowler be quite that angry with the footmarks. But he apparently was late last night. He was a little bit concerned about them, particularly where his back foot lands. We saw that slow motion replay of his back foot sort of sliding under him. Obviously, there's a lot of energy going through Gary throwing into tweets.
Okay, excellent.
There's a lot of energy going through a bowler's feet when they just land, and you don't want to be worried about the footmarks. You can see Wagner slightly
pulled up slightly, didn't we? Saw that.
Yeah, slightly sort of not a roll of the ankle exactly, but a slight wobble of the ankle. He's going to continue, hopefully, with the footmarks now having been repaired to his satisfaction.
we'll soon find out if it's not. Although it does look as if he's going to be coming around the wicket rather than over, which is where he was having the problems with the foot mark. So England 128 for 5 in the 74th over. 6 overs time. New Zealand will have the opportunity to take the new ball. England trail by 134 runs. There's a bit of a committee meeting going on between Santner, Southey and Williamson.
Taylor was in it briefly but then recused himself. I wonder if this conversation is about A, how much longer Mitchell Santner wants to go on with in this spell, and B, whether to take the new ball. Kane Williamson, it looks like, is warming up. He did bowl 1 over before lunch. It's interesting
Which
field.
went for 6 in the over, which is extraordinary. So anyway, they're ready, and Wagner is running in just outside off Denley's off stump, and he just moves forward defensive shot, and ball just trickles out to the fielder.
So we've got the slip gully, the short leg. We've got the off Hayden. Tim Southey's almost on the cut strip. Short extra cover and a sort of short cover point. The slip cordon has been moved round sort of 90 degrees or so, so it's now in front of Joe Denley on the offside.
There's a little short leg in there as well. Wagner in again, all outside off stump. He's just edged that, and Taylor has dived over the ball, and it's run away to the boundary.
I don't think that carried to Ross Taylor at all. Denley again playing with pretty soft hands. See, it just held up a little bit off the seam, but always going down and bounced away short of Ross Taylor, and actually bounced over him in the end.
Yes, well, we'll take those 4 runs. Oh, I'll take that back. I thought that was quite a poor bit of cricket from Taylor, but no, it was a very dodgy bounce. Anyway, Wagner in to Denley again. He shoulders, arms. I think he's touched that in that very, very confident appeal from the New Zealanders.
I didn't think that hit anything.
And they've I think they've reviewed.
They are certain.
Yeah, they're absolutely certain.
That was definitely out. Was that definitely out?
Well, the review must be for Denley failing to get the bat out of the way as he shouldered arms and left it above his head, because the ball did rocket through to BJ Watling out of nowhere.
I mean, this is why I wanted to see Wagner
So
bowl
it's a fair
a bit
ball
earlier.
anyway, we know.
Yeah, round the wicket angle's seemingly much more difficult. Having a look at this now, I think that's bounced over everything, hasn't it?
It's a good catch. It's a good catch if he has edged it.
could only
It's a
just
bottom
clip
edge. It's a bottom edge if it's anything.
No, it's his gloves, if anything. It has. It's just clipped his glove.
Yeah, it has.
He is
That's
out.
incredibly unlucky for Joe Denley, because the ball seemed to go up after it passed the batter, but there does seem to be a little clip on the top glove.
So they've successfully reviewed. Joe Denley has to depart. 35 runs, caught Watling, bowled Wagner. First wicket for Wagner in his 13th over, 1 for 24.
Komodo Masena comes in for a lot of criticism as an umpire, but it's hard to blame him for missing that.
Oh, I don't think the only thing is it must have been quite a loud sound because
all the fielders
they all went up all at the same time. It's a good catch by BJ Watling, but I don't know how you play that ball. I mean, he did nothing wrong. He lined it up. He got his hands high, but it still wasn't high enough. And this is really the answer to Hendo about half an hour ago. Yes, there isn't much movement. There's not much spin. There isn't much swing, but there is up and down, and you can't really blame Denley for that, can you?
That definitely zoomed off at the length it was bowled. I mean, it would have almost went over Watling's head. It was still rising. It got to him.
Yeah, it was a kind of a 1 bounce 4 off the glove, which was what it would have been had BJ Watling not intervened. Speaking of explosives, I do want to get this tweet in if I can, because it's a super one from Pirate Badshaw, who says, between the Westpac being beside a container port and this place having a salt refinery, New Zealand feels like a fantastic place. Just find me a ground with a Bessemer converter in the background and I'll be in heavy industry heaven.
Not just a ferry port at the Westpac, it's also a commercial passenger ferry port.
Yeah, well, any tweet with the words Bessemer converter in is going to get read out immediately, as you know.
Do we do tweet of the day?
Well, that's it for me, I think.
Well,
done,
it's
Barrett.
England's wicket keepers at the crease after Joe Denley was eventually prized from the crease by that delivery, 35 of 142, and that brings this man to the wicket.
Pryor ain't no loss, 'cause we found someone Sutler. Okay, he can't spell Joss, but he also can't spell Butler. Joss Butler. Just because he is Joss Butler. One S and two T's, Joss Butler.
So Wagner in with his first success in this England second innings, and Butler just watches that go past through to Watling.
Maybe. Just looking at the back footer. No, he's all right.
He's all right.
Big effort ball from Wagner. Fair play to him. I know he's been kept sort of kicking his heels a little bit and then kicking the pitch a little bit. But he's done well to get anything on that. It was only because he lined the ball up so well that it took the glove.
It must have hit a crack, mustn't it? Anyway, he's in again. Butler firmly forward in his stance. Ball goes out into the offside.
It didn't even hit a crack.
Look.
It just some kind of alignment of it hitting the seam, of just hitting the seam with it upright, and Wagner really bending his back, and some sort of day 5 pitch gremlin, and it just rocketed up and sort of intercepted Joe Denley's glove on the way through to Watling.
It was a fine example of DRS in operation, because nobody's blaming Kumar Dharmasena, but it was obviously out.
A little lesson for VAR there, I think.
Yes. We'll go to your tweets. Ravi Nair quite rightly pulls me up, saying, when Gary claims a run target isn't possible, just whisper, in the style of a servant whispering to the Roman Emperor, you too are mortal, at him, Shy Hope, in England, with the early declaration. Messages points out it's excellent to see Dizzy 259 during guerrilla cricket on his extra day off from the Australian series. Probably time to compare his 200 with Watling's. And Kiwi Callie, hello Kiwi Callie. Kiwi Callie. She says, I've neglected you terribly because of, well, life. But hi, through very poor planning, I'm not in New Zealand at the moment, but I've been keeping an eye on the match. Hope you're coping all right with the sleep deprivation.
That's going all right. The test match is bubbling up nicely. Yes, we posted. I'll come to that after this ball. Go ahead, Steve.
Santner into Pope, just pushes it out onto the offside, and there's no run.
Oh, look at that variable bounce. Yeah. It's 3 foot higher from a place that's actually further up the pitch. Impossible to play. But you should get some impossible deliveries on a 5th day pitch.
Absolutely. So Santner in again, starting his 32nd over. Pope nudges that out into the leg side. Wagner comes around, misfields, and they're comfortably through for another single.
I just want to give one tweet now, which is some love for James Sherwood from Kunal Tulani, who says, love the Joss Butler jingle.
It's good. It's a Sherwood cracker. Yeah,
Sherwood cracker.
We tweeted about the new ball being due, and Jason Gillespie, no less, tweeted us back to say the correct word is, of course, available. We're corrected by one of the very finest coaches working in cricket at the moment, and a very fine bowler in his own right.
I believe he's at my county Sussex.
Indeed.
Butler comes forward defensively, just pushes it out into the offside.
And a man with, off the top of my head, 259 test wickets. Am I getting that right? I'm not sure, but it's of that order.
Quite a lot of English ones, as I remember, over the years.
Especially in that first tour, was it 21?
2001.
Those long locks waving behind him. Butler goes backwards and prods us out into the offside.
Excellent recall, Gary. 259 wickets at 26.13.
Yeah, and Bob Willis was... it was in the early days when cameras could really zoom in, and Bob Willis, I remember him praising Gillespie's seam position and wrist position, saying it was absolutely perfect.
This one is just on leg stump, and Butler just nudges us into the leg side. The short leg fielder fields, and again another
Gillespie's made a significant difference to certain bowlers, Liam Plunkett in particular, when he went to Yorkshire about the same time Gillespie turned up, and coinciding with some work that he'd already been doing, Ishant Sharma.
Again, Butler's forward, defending, And that is the end of the 76th over. England 133 for 6, still trailing by 129.
Ishant Sharma, of course, a man, dare one say, enjoying an Indian summer at the moment.
He's been superb over the last 2 years.
Absolutely fantastic.
And he's now developed a delivery that goes away from the right-hander.
It's rare for
how old is he now?
Only 31. He's been around for a very long time.
He's got some miles on the clock. Remember him sorting out punting.
Over 200?
Yes, well over 200. He took a 9. Took a 9 for in this Test match. It's just finished against Bangladesh, the first ever day-night Test in India. 292 Test wickets.
So fast approaching 300.
Jason Gillespie was, of course, very early into diet and went vegan, I think, quite early. I'm yet to see The Game Changers, which, as I understand, is a film about vegan sportsmen and women.
Wagner to continue into his 14th over. That one is outside off stump. Pope successfully shoulders arms, doesn't get a contact of any description on the ball as it goes past, unlike poor Joe Denley.
And I think Virat Kohli probably gets a mention, as Lewis Hamilton, of course, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and others. And it comes recommended by Andy Ward of this parish.
A little review of some of the balls that have reared up and taken wickets in this Test match. This is no!
What a catch!
So if Wagner bowls a full toss, Pope smashes it into the offside, and I don't know who took the catch.
Mitchell Santner.
Santner took an absolutely fantastic flying catch. I don't think Pope can quite believe that he's out.
I do hope Mitchell. I do hope Mitchell Santner buys a lottery ticket today, because this is very much his week.
So it's a legit ball. We've just been watching the front foot, but it was a full toss, quite wide outside the off stump, and Pope really reached for it, and Santner dives away, grabs it one-handed with his right hand, which is not his better hand. Fantastic catch.
I mean, not the best of shots from Ollie Pope, but he did hit it pretty hard. He was reaching for it, and it was well out in front of him. That's an unbelievable catch from Mitchell Santner. Ollie Pope gone for 6 off 24. England suddenly in a pickle, 133 for 7.
That's 4 of the 7 that the New Zealanders need today.
Yeah, it wasn't a very good shot. I mean, you've got to go out there. You've got to go out there with the mindset of leaving as much as possible alone, even if it's a scoring opportunity. It was a really sensational catch. One's reminded, and I'm sure not Fred would be grimacing at me, but one's reminded of Jackie Bond's catch in the Gillette Cup final of, I think, 1971. I'm going to get some tweets in before we jingle up the next batsman. Adelaide Barmy says, what about a Newcomen Bram engine? I'm sure we can attempt to construct one at Hamilton for you, which would be nice. Kiwi Callie says the Denley wicket was reminiscent of Kane Williamson getting out in the first innings. He had an almost identical delivery the ball prior, and the one that got him climbed on him. Good bowling both times. Jason Gillespie gives us a couple of smiles, I think. I'm not very good at my emojis, Jason. You're a little younger than me, and therefore you're much better at it, but it's great to have you along. And Derek Willis says, suddenly in a pickle? And Mark Zip says, I wonder if a vegan batsman would be insulted if you said a good shot came out of the meat of the bat. Oh! Yes,
very
indeed.
good. I like that.
Well, England having lost the Pope, will go to the man who seems to have made a deal with the devil.
Is he a batter or bowler? Sam Curran. What's his distinguishing feature? Sam Curran. His dad's from Zimbabwe. Sam Curran. And he's beloved by Liz Yates. Sam Curran.
I mean, I always used to think that Luke Wright looked like he stepped out of a boy band, but Sam Curran is the next generation of boy band. We should really try and put together a boy band of cricketers. Certainly, Sam Curran's in there.
There's only one direction this game's going.
Oh! Take that, England.
And all this punnage, Sam Curran just defends his first ball from Neil Wagner. That was a knuckle ball from Neil Wagner that he bowled to Ollie Pope. No wonder he was early on it, and as Pope stretching for it down on one knee. But you can watch that catch again and again and again. It gets better every time from Santner.
Yeah, that's Ram Prakash in West Indies, was it? When he was, or against West Indies when he was at point, when he was in mid-air. It really is a sensational catch.
So Wagner in again. This is short, and Curran is able to just duck under it and let it go through. So here's a question for you boys. It's getting to that sort of stage of the match where we have to sort of think about man of the match.
Santner.
Well, I'm going to say...
I mean,
well,
it's
on the
really
basis-
harsh on Watling.
Yes.
Maybe they could share it.
He's a Centurion. He's just taken the most fantastic catch. He's taken the first 3 wickets in this England second innings. He's certainly laying a claim, isn't he?
Yeah, it's Santner's match.
And Curran firmly drives this into the offside. Williamson runs around and fields it, and no run.
It would be somehow fitting for BJ Watling to score a maiden double ton and still not get man of the match.
Yes, it's a very BJ Watling thing to do, like those sort of
Unassuming.
World 11s where he doesn't even get a mention. Very good from Jeff Perkins if we're on the punnage. Santner delivering presents early for all good Kiwis.
Very good.
He's the perk in the works rather than the elf on the shelf.
New Zealand are just messing about with their field at the moment. They're bringing in the deep mid-wicket and bringing him into a more conventional mid-wicket position.
This being the 5th day, if England lose another wicket before tea, do we take the extra half hour?
Je ne sais pas. Wagner in again. Curran just goes back and just pushes that out into the leg side. Another dot ball.
I don't think there is an extra half hour. Don't they go down to the last 15 overs from the time? Or I'm never quite sure.
But you can add it onto
any session.
You can add it onto a session.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think you have to be 9 down though to add it onto a session. I think you have to be 9 down. Messages says, I suspect that Jane Francis 63 may have rediscovered her love of cricket all of a sudden. I think you're right.
Blackcap's hearts are healing.
And Aladale Barmy says, fair play, son. Mitchell Santner, take a bow.
That was a good catch.
Our very own Hendo is in. 3 days ago, I thought Pope was the future. Now I have to concede that rarely has an England batsman got out to 2 such horrendous shots in the same match.
So Santner now into his 33rd over. He must be beginning to get a little bit tired. But balls to Butler. Butler just nudges this out. Look at didn't he? That went about 45 degrees off the pitch.
Yeah, that was
outside off stump.
And
Quite
this
extraordinary.
maybe there's a contention for the rest of Hendo's tweet, which I'll bring you in a moment.
This comes off the legs of Butler and disappears into the leg side, and there's no run.
Hendo continues saying, our test team abroad is pretty much a shambles. This is no 133 for 7 wicket.
True.
I mean, the runs
pretty
are
much a shambles, I agree with, but I'm not sure it's that easy a wicket to play. Maybe not 133 for 7, but it's not easy.
Getting a full ball almost underneath Butler's bat. But he does get some wood onto that.
I mean, obviously England have been very defensive all day and have been deliberately almost trying not to score runs. So they're packing back half volleys and leaving a lot. So that that's why the rate of run scoring is not that high.
Butler goes back, just nudges it out into the offside. I
do agree that the odd unplayable ball aside, the one that got Denley in particular, there have been some pretty loose shots.
I mean, the equation that matters is not so much 133 for 7, but 7 wickets in 77 overs.
Again, left by Butler. So far, 5 dots in this over. Yet another maiden looming on the horizon for Mitchell Santner.
And maybe you shouldn't be losing 7 wickets in 77 overs, but I don't think it's a pitch where you're going to only lose 4 in 77 overs.
And again, a very firm forward defensive from Butler. That brings up the end of that over. Another maiden is complete.
I'm going to defer to Anna Forsyth on this, who claims that she thinks that Sam Curran is a bit too squishy to be in a boy band.
Sam Curran could in theory be, not necessarily the one who's in for his looks, but the one who is actually the really talented one and writes all the songs.
Well, we've got a mention of that.
They're always called Gary, aren't they?
From the Stella Rosa. He says Roger Toos will be that one guy in the band who is there for reasons other than looks. Roger Toos, the Warwickshire and New Zealand batsman.
Yeah.
He had a brief run of fame in the mid-90s.
Yeah, I think of that teal New Zealand ODI kit, and I think Roger Twos, the one they wore in the '99 World Cup.
Roger Ones.
Very good.
Jeff Perkins says, so Ollie is just another anti-pope. One for those of you in the west of Scotland. Kunal Tulani says, Black Caps' hearts would be healing much faster if these games were worth WTC points, World Test Championship points. Does anybody care about the World Test Championship?
I like the World Test Championship.
Yes. Anyway, Wagner in, bowls outside off stump. Curran sort of right on his crease line, neither forward nor back, just prods that out into the
I don't think it goes
offside.
far enough.
Well, my view in the World Test Championship is a bit like my view of Maunganui. I'm glad it's there, but I'm not really all that bothered.
Until people crash into it in their paragliders.
Yes, in Catch 22-ish style. Was it Orr who was in that plane? I can't remember. I think Orr was the one who got to Sweden.
Anyway, Wagner in. This is a leg side. Oh, this just flashes past the leg gully fielder, and fielder on the boundary comes running around, stops it going through for 4, and they go through for 1. That's the first run in quite a long time.
I mean, that was half a chance there. I've got a feeling the fielder was slightly on his heels.
No, it was past him, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it would have been a sensational catch, but we've seen
and they've
one.
already had one of those.
Yeah,
so
we already had one.
They've had enough of
But
those.
again, it just goes to show that particularly to Wagner, just have a man there at leg slip or slightly finer, because it went fine of the man at leg gully. Kane Williamson's got a lot right with his field setting, but I do think he could have attacked a little more on that line.
Wagner again, outside off stump, and Butler is in defensive mode again. So Curran has actually moved off zeros on 1 after 6 balls. Butler is still yet to score, having faced 14 balls.
As 8th wicket partnership goes, Joss Butler and Sam Curran is pretty good.
Yes, a bit of talent there, but my word, they're going to have to demonstrate it, aren't they?
Yes, who was South Africa in that non-stop set of batsmen would have sort of Klusner and Pollock as a 9th wicket partnership, so it's probably around that level, isn't it? Maybe not quite as good as those two.
Wagner in again. Outside off stump, and Butler just shoulders arms, the ball goes through to Watling behind the stumps.
Anish Rao has got perhaps I can turn it into a question for your good self, Knuckle. It says, nice to see Javagal Srinath is the ref in this test match. Always nice to see old players who weren't popular enough to get fancy roles with the BCCI still associated with cricket. Now, Javagal Srinath's been a referee for probably a decade.
Long time.
Yeah.
Long time.
He's a very fine bowler, Srinath.
Wholehearted bowler, yes.
Wagner up to the crease. This one jags back from outside off stumps, not a long way from Butler's off stump there. And Watling takes that the other side of the leg stump by the time they got through to him.
Srinath was one of those bowlers, and you do come across them who look quicker with the naked eye than he looked on television. On television he looked fast medium, but when you were actually at the grounds he looked genuinely quick.
He had a real bustle and energy to his action, the way he ran in. There was always a certain amount of hostility, and like a lot of bowl, would have benefited from probably playing about 10 years later for India.
Yeah.
Wagner in to complete the 79th over, and Butler is forward and defensive, and remains on 0 off 17 balls faced. Now England 134 for 7, and the new ball is available.
Well, the selectors
6 ball time.
The selectors are getting started. The Jersey Jingler says, at 24 years old, I hope Shreyas Iyer, I hope I'm saying that.
Shreyas
Iyer isn't too old for the GC boy band. His hair alone warrants his inclusion.
There's some good IPL hair. Nitish Rana has very good boy band hair.
Yeah, who's the? Is it the Afghanistan batsman who has very piercing green eyes?
Yes. What's it?
Samiullah
Shinwari.
Yeah, I think he definitely gets a gig in the boy band. We need a few more blonde bombshells, though. They always
Stuart
go down.
Broad in his younger days.
Stuart Broad in his younger days. Maybe a little too tall. But if we're only going for dark hair, we're more of a K-pop band than the genuine boy band has to have at least 2 blonde bombshells, I think.
There should be a ginger one in there as well, shouldn't there? I mean,
the Jason Orange.
The Spice Girls lived on.
Yeah, that's you've gender flipping where perhaps that does take us into different waters.
We're now watching a young New Zealand family settling down for a picnic. No, our little boy's not having that. Anyway, it's Satner to continue to Curran, who's right forward here and just about stops that ball. We're just revisiting Santner's catch.
That ball was behind him by the time he caught up with it. He was taking it at head height, pretty much, diving full into his right. You know, it's as good a catch as the shot was bad.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Ravi also has a point.
He's back in, and Curran is just thrusting his pad at that one, and it runs away.
Ravi says, surely the boy band formula is writer, beefcake, 2 dancers. Has to be Foxy Fowler, Faf du Plessis, Garth and Ramprakash, no?
I mean, certainly beefcake stakes, you have to go a long way to beat Faf du Plessis.
That's true.
Very rarely seen with his shirt on.
Didn't Goffey do Strictly Come Dancing?
Goff and Ramprakash both did as well on the list.
Hence the 2 dancers.
Off the inside edge of
slip.
but not far away from the short leg fielder.
I would have gone through backwards short leg.
I know, but the leg slip is in play. That's why
I would definitely have him to the left-hander. I'm not so sure about the right-hander, but because the ball's turning so much.
Yeah.
Unless they're deliberately leaving it open in case they want to try and tempt Curran to clip it round the corner and
Santner's not too pleased about that.
Get
but
leading
anyway,
edges.
On to the next one. This is outside off stump, and Curran just rocks back and just punches this at 45 degrees through sort of a vacant gully area, and it's gone over the boundary.
An intake of breath from Garrett. I think that was nicely played. He opened the face, made sure he played it very late.
Yeah, it was. I was kind of half thinking it was a second slip in place because, for some reason, Kane Williamson, having attacked with 4 fielders to the 2 set batsmen in Stokes and Denley, is now attacking with just 3 to Sam Curran, who's only faced 10 balls.
A firm forward defensive from Sam Curran. Sends the ball back to Santner, who fields his own. All change
potentially. The new ball's available in one ball, and we'll have a change at the end of this over.
So Santner to complete the 80th over, and Curran has a big swish straight into, is it Nichols?
Yes.
Nichols hits his leg, and that's the end of the over. 4 off it. England 138 for 7.
Yeah.
New ball due.
Steve's going to go over to tweets. Pralab's going to replace me on jingles, and I'm going to take you through to tea or the end of this game, whichever happens first, on ball by ball.
Yep. You owe us all right. You think this alternative cricket commentary stuff comes cheap? Well, we need some dollar bills to help pay our bills, so please go to patreon.com/Gorilla Cricket and sign up to make a regular monthly donation. You know there is literally nothing like Gorilla Cricket's coverage, so don't be tight. Dip into your virtual pocket and throw some cash our way. See, Rihanna knows. Patreon.com/Gorilla Cricket.
Pay me what you want it.
New Zealand may have taken 3 for 12 with the old ball, but they've taken the new one at the first possible time of asking. Neil Wagner is going to wang it down. Presumably Tim Southey will be on at the other end. Neil Wagner 2 for 25 and has just made England's task that much harder, dismissing Joe Denley with an absolute ripper and unplayable delivery, and then having Ollie Pope caught off a terrible shot and an outrageously good catch. 2 slips in the gully and a short leg as Wagner comes around. Awful lead from Joss Butler. It swings in a long way from outside his off stump. Butler's tried to leave it, and it hit the base of off stump. Joss Butler gone for an 18-ball duck. Neil Wagner strikes with the first ball with the second new ball. England 138 for 8. I want to see if my assessment of the leave was quite as if the leave was quite as bad as I assessed it, because it's come from very wide in the crease. No, I think that is a poor leave. That is a really poor leave. Always going to be spearing in towards the stumps, and Butler with no second line of defence. A complete error of judgment from Joss Butler. It's thumped into the base of off stump. He's almost left an off stump. He's left an off stump Yorker, basically, and England sink further towards defeat in Mount Maunganui.
Steve Aldersley has just pointed out England's 7th wicket partnership was only 260 runs short of New Zealand's 7th wicket partnership.
Remember when we used to talk about England always being able to add runs with a lower order?
And Kiwi Kali, that's a very reductive interpretation of the boy band formula. You need 5 to account for the one who leaves. At least 1 blonde, 1 brunette, 1 bad boy, 1 childlike, and 1 actual talent.
I think the bad boy is Ben Stokes.
Yeah.
It looks like a bad boy, but actually
He's
isn't.
got the tattoos.
He's got the aggression.
He's got the aggression. I think he can pass
Maybe
along
B
quite
Mac
well.
in his younger days. The big forearms, the tattoos.
That's right, he could definitely do it.
We'll park such thoughts because the game, having progressed at a sedate pace, is suddenly bursting into life in this second session of day 5. England have lost, I think that's 4 for 12 now in the last, 12 overs or so, and England's Bajan is out at number 10.
And now it's time for Jofra Archer.
3 wickets in each innings for Neil Wagner, 2 steps in the gully and a short leg. Full straight delivery. Big LBW appeal. Kumar Dharmasena says no. I think it's probably sliding down leg from that angle. Very wide on the crease. New Zealand, of course, do have both reviews left because the last time they used a review, it was revealed that Joe Dunley had got a little bit of a glove on it. Williamson tells Neil Wagner no. I think he also thinks it's sliding down leg. Having another look at this again, yes, it's pretty much hit him on leg stump and is sliding down. But Jofra Archer got into a horrible position. This wide of the crease angle, left arm round the wicket, is causing England's lower and middle order problems. That's a good shot from Jofra Archer, actually. Another full in-swinging delivery, but dug out with the full face of the bat by Archer. Back to the bowler, there is no run. This leave doesn't get much better. Reminiscent of Glenn Maxwell's leave in the Big Bash a few years ago.
Although that one he exposed the stumps a lot more, but this one is just, I don't know what he was thinking.
Somehow it looks worse when it's hit the base of off stump.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely in the middle of so central of the bat, it bounced back and hit.
It's not like
Butler.
it swung massively. I mean, it did swing in, but it
just
wasn't anything.
No, just a complete
major.
misjudgment. Wagner's gone over the wicket now to Archer. That's down leg and clipped aerially by Jofra Archer. Thought for a second that was going to loop into the hands of Matt Henry at long leg, but it bounced well short of him in the end. They come through for a single. Archer wasn't quite in control of that shot. Sam Curran on to strike.
Anyway, back to boy band issues. Anna Forsyth tweets, on the subject of boy bands, this week I taught my Canadian flatmate about the magic of Blue. They were the ultimate in my...
Blue with the song All Rise was one of my favourite songs. Actually.
Blue, several years later, I think after they'd broken up, were the UK's Eurovision entry.
Yes.
Ah, wow. I didn't know
With
that.
a not very good song.
And Kunal Talani, okay, here's a question. Should Root be relieved from the captaincy?
He's not going to go unless he wants to. So I think whether he should or not is not really the question. Or at least it's not a question that's going to be much, that's going to be profitable asking. 2 steps in the gully, 3 men up in the offside for Sam Curran, who drives this beautifully into the offside. Good stop by Tom Blundell, who's on the field. So I think we've got 2 sub-fielders. I'm not sure who Blundell is on for. Henry's been on for Trent Bolt, who, if you are just joining us, injured a rib at some point during the 1 over he was able to bowl today, and will almost certainly miss the second test. Not sure who Blundell's on for, but he's done very well on that occasion. There is no run.
I'm taking this under advisement, but the opening statsman tweets, that was the worst performance by a pope since Urban VI caused the Western Schism in the 1378 Vatican Championships.
The Vatican Championships. Very good. Oh, that's almost snuck through a massive LBW. He's given it. Kumar Dharmasena, almost as an afterthought, has given this LBW. I think then has immediately Sam Curran reviewed it. I thought there was an inside edge. It was a full delivery which swung in to the left-handed Sam Curran. So Wagner's getting the ball to swing both ways. It was a drive from Sam Curran as he it was a very full delivery. I thought there was an inside edge, a fairly big inside edge. Sam Curran certainly reviewed it immediately. It's not a no ball, certainly. See that ball swinging in. Massive inside edge from Sam Curran. And, well, Kumar Dharmasena couldn't be blamed for missing the inside edge, that or the glove, rather, that saw the end of Joe Denley. But that's a pretty shocking umpiring decision. Thank God for DRS.
You cannot be serious!
Smash the cover off that. Under that after all of that, there is no run off that delivery, and Neil Wagner with the new ball, a one run off it and the wicket, and it is going to be New Zealand's one remaining strike bowler, as it were, from the other end.
He's so pretty, that Tim Southey. He's so pretty and witty and bright, but Tim Southey's not as pretty as Kane Williamson.
Messages, tweets. Cue another Hendo rant about Joss Butler.
You can't. Well, on that occasion, you can't blame him for. You can't blame him for playing overly aggressively. At least Southey in 2 slips and a gully, well wide of off stump, and a ball that she keeps swinging wider. Watling has to take this from past first slip. There is no run. Yes, Joss Butler is often decried as a T20 basher who plays too aggressively for Test cricket. Certainly not on that occasion. If anything, went too far the other way.
They've got a deeper point in play, just in case he slashes out.
Yeah. Jofra Archer's a reasonably attacking player. His first class record is a hell of a lot better than his Test batting so far would suggest. Averaging just 6.62 in Test cricket, and leaves this with no real certainty outside off stump. There is no run. Tim Southey rather settling things down after that madcap spell from Neil Wagner.
Messages, tweets. Root's 2019 average to date is just 27.4 in 10 tests. Unusually, he has been out in both innings of every test he has played.
Yes, and as Hendo was saying earlier, he's found some rather bizarre ways to get out.
Although I think Butler was just trumped.
Yes, that was quite something. Southey goes very wide in the crease, bowls a little bit slower. Archer forced to play at this and just drops it into the onside, short mid-wicket field. There is no run.
Dave Thomas sends a fantastic tweet of a little boy just in his baby chair, just throwing his arms up in the air. That's it, I surrender. Very good. And a full scythe. You know who England could use to block out the rest of the day? The Watford wall. There's a reference to Tony.
No, there's Mr. Stephen Thomas Finn, who is currently commentating for the BBC. Gentle outswinger outside off stump. Archer has nothing to do with it, leaves alone through to the keeper. There is no run.
And the Jersey Jingler. Is a bad leave the most embarrassing way to get out? It's worse than a comedy run out.
I think leaving a ball that hits the base of off stump is pretty embarrassing. I mean, on some occasions it genuinely isn't. You do get those ones that swing in late.
Yeah, I mean, those are
Simon Jones to Michael Clark in the 2005 Ashes springs to mind, but that was just a complete brain fade from Joss Butler in a completely different way to his brain fade in the first innings. Deep square leg has gone back, slightly in front of square and about 5 yards in off the boundary. Back of a length outside off stump. Archer threatens to play at it and then just wafts the bat inside the line through to the keeper. There is no run. There's a real slowness to the way that Archer bats. Just his address at the crease and his sort of gently moving the bat wherever he wants it to.
There was one time I did see a batsman just leave the ball and hit the stumps. It was actually quite an intelligent one, which was it was a free hit in a T20. And he thought he'd actually let it hit the stumps and deflect towards the boundary.
Oh.
And it worked out quite well. I think they ran at least 3 runs and they might have possibly gotten that 4. So not a bad tactic.
Last ball of the over from Tim Southey. Wide outside off stump, left alone through to the keeper. There is no run. A fairly unthreatening maiden. England 139 for 8.
Messages is enjoying himself. Delighted to advise that England's ability to lose 4 wickets for 17 runs maintains their CQ collapsibility quotient on a par with Pakistan. And Mog, so can we officially declare England is fucked? Probably right.
Can they survive till T? And will that break get extended as well as a question mark?
I think one more wicket and possibly the extra half hour will be taken if New Zealand haven't wrapped things up by then. We were discussing this just before you came on air, Pralab.
Well, that may be. Well, 2 more wickets, just 2 more deliveries, and the new balls delivered quite quickly. In fact, very quickly on that very first delivery.
Yeah, it's swung. We've seen more deliveries swing with this new ball than we've seen with any of the new balls in the match so far. Wagner in to Sam Curran, 2 slips and a gully as Wagner's in left arm over the wicket. This one threatens to come into Curran, then wobbles away from Curran, and he plays well inside the line through to BJ Watling, who takes low. There is no run. There's 2 men back on the hook at long leg and deep backward square leg. There's a mid on. We've got, I'll try and give you the rest of the offside field when I can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Probably a point and a sort of wide-ish mid off, I would imagine, would be the field for Sam Curran. Doesn't look as though there's anyone in short catching on the offside. Wagner in second ball of the over up to the crease now, bowls a full delivery which swings into Sam Curran, and he tries to play this up to mid on. It squirts off the outside part of the bat, goes to mid off. There is no run. As we see again the flag of our friend Dutchbird Kate adorning one of the hospitality pavilions.
Steve Aldersley bringing some common sense to the discussion. The problem with replacing Root as captain is that it should really go to an established batsman who isn't a regular bowler, and nobody else fits that description at the moment. Stokes is the nearest if we could trust him not to over-bowl himself.
Wagner in, short ball down the leg side, and Curran clips this away nicely off his hips, and that's rocketed away to the very fine leg boundary for 4. Matt Henry way too wide at long leg to cut that off.
1, 2 ka 4, 4 2 ka 1. My name is Lakhan. My name is Lakhan.
Nice shot from Sam Curran. Wagner just straying in line, and Curran just helping it on its way. No sense in turning down run scoring opportunities when they come that easily.
Kanatalani, this is why I love this England team, to be honest. I need some comedy. Ruthless teams are boring. He continues, I thought of Stokes too, but he'd definitely over-bowl himself.
Wagner goes wide in the crease, full delivery, and driven by Sam Curran hard into the ground, and it bounces up to the burly figure of Colin de Grandhomme at extra cover, and there is no run. It's too much for Stokes. He's already carrying the batting in the middle order.
Yeah, I mean, adding the captaincy to it.
It's too much. It would remind me of when Flintoff had it. It's a lot. Both of them going back a little bit further. You can't overburden someone that much. Well, the vice captain before that was Joss Butler, who, well, I like Joss Butler, but this is outside of stumps. A good delivery from Neil Wagner, wide on the crease, drawing Curran forward and drawing him into the stroke with that wide of the crease angle, threatening the stumps, and then it swings away late, passes the outside edge as Curran pokes at it through to the keeper. There is no run.
Cliche warning time.
Mm-hmm.
Wagner's got his tail up.
Mm-hmm. Somewhere the fat lady is warming up.
And Dr. S.P. Cooper, it's time to say it, we're doomed.
In comes Wagner, last ball of the over, very wide in the crease, full delivery, and beautifully crashed through the offside. The despairing dive from the man at backward point to his left is to no avail. Curran picks up his second boundary of the over. So bookends the over with a sweetly timed clip off the hips and then a sweetly timed square drive. He's on 13, Archer on 1, England 147 for 8.
Messages making a suggestion. I think Mike Brearley should be off-field captain, relaying instructions via Spidercam. And Mod comments, this test is significantly more entertaining than the other two foregone conclusions snooze fest that ended yesterday.
I don't think the India-Bangladesh game was a snooze fest exactly. There's wickets falling all the time, but yeah, it wasn't exactly close.
And Neil Franklin, poor old Joss Butler, shades of Chris Reed.
Yeah, Chris Reed was ducking at a slower ball which took out middle stump, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Chris Cairns it was he bowled. That was against New Zealand too. Archer picks up 2 runs into the leg side, I think. As gets some jabs down on this one. It comes off the inside part of the bat and squirts away into the leg side.
He runs slowly as well.
Jeet Raval chases this back to the square leg boundary. They come through 4-2. I think he looks like he runs slowly, but I think he covers the ground pretty quickly with that long loping stride of his.
I've actually quite enjoyed watching Curran bat. So far, he's looked very, very at home.
Curran's played a couple of very, very nice shots indeed. Archer's not quite looked with it yet. That's well outside off stump, and Archer leaves alone through to the keeper. There is no run. It bounces in front of BJ Watling the second time, and then he bounces off his body, and he has to run away into the leg side to field. But no thoughts of a bye.
He is just the coolest of dudes, though.
Yeah.
Just now it phases him.
I think BJ Watling might have parried that into his own face as he tried to take that nasty one for a wicket keeper.
Steve Aldersley asking, will England make it to tea? How long have we got?
We've got 12 minutes.
I think just. Southey in full delivery on the stumps. Archer jabs this down into the onside, fielded by the subfielder Matt Henry at mid-on. There is no run.
I mean, they've done reasonably. Survived 84 overs on what is relatively reasonable pitch to bat on. But if they can get to the 100 over mark, I'd say that's good achievement for the team then. I mean,
and only 8 wickets down. Yeah, I'll be fine. I'll take that.
I was going all out, but I mean, it'd be a bit of a stretch to get the 8 wickets down. Very optimistic though. It's doable.
Short ball, which Archer ducks, but has no need to duck because the ball apologetically wobbles outside off stump through to Tim BJ Watling. Sorry, there is no run. This has been not a very good spell from Tim Southey, economical as it has been.
Yeah, it just hasn't threatened, and yeah, perhaps there's an opportunity to just to, especially with T coming right in the corner.
He does look tired.
What do you think, Santner with a new ball?
I'd give him an over at least, just to see.
It looks like one of those spinners who would bowl well with a new ball. As Southey's in penultimate ball of the over, another short ball which is horribly offline. This time down the leg side and bounces way over BJ Watling's head. Poor bugger. So I'm not sure what that's going to be signalled. 4 byes, rather harshly.
2 + 2 is on
It's one of those things, letter of the law, yes, that is a bye, because it isn't high enough or wide enough for it to be given a wide, but BJ Watling had absolutely no chance.
Yeah.
It used to be a new category.
I don't think any wicketkeeper would have had any chance with that.
No, Quinton de Kock standing on BJ Watling's shoulders, I think, might have had a chance of taking that, but...
it's one of those where you kind of hopes the umpire will call it sneaky wide.
Yeah, definitely.
Called into the bowler.
England 153 for 8. 2 slips in the gully, 2 men back on the hook, and mid on, and 3 men up in the offside as Southey's in, and that's nicely poked at by Jofra Archer as it swings away from him. And there's actually also a man back on the cover boundary who is Mitchell Santner. They lope through for a single, 3 runs off the bat and 4 byes off that over from Tim Southey. Who is not quite getting the message of Neil Wagner bringing the intensity from the other end. England 154 for 8.
What was the GPL entry?
The 155, 160 and 195. England started on 55 today.
So we had 100 and a bit. I don't think any of them are going to win, are they?
Well, hoping for a Curran and Jofra Archer special.
Well, Sam Curran suddenly taking it to them a little bit, isn't
he? Yeah, he's hitting the right balls. And there hasn't been much too much seam movement actually. Seen a hint of like sort of shape and swing coming in.
A little bit from Neil Wagner, but not much.
Nothing over the top.
I keep showing a lot of repeats of that Butler leaped.
It's going to be one of those heavily repeated items. You'll see it very often.
Dear.
Wagner in to Jofra Archer. 2 slips on the gully and a short leg. Nicely defended by Jofra Archer. That's his most solid shot so far. Good stride into the ball, pushes it out into the offside. There is no run.
Jessica 1284 hockey stroke cricket time. Tuning into Guerrilla Cricket for the first time. Thanks.
Well, welcome, Jessica.
A Forsyth for tweeting about it during the test.
Nice scouting and recruiting work, Anna. Thank you very much.
Just donated a listener for my podcast, says Anna. Thank you. You're welcome, guys.
Appreciate it.
Excellent work. Driven nicely by Jofra Archer. Driven really powerfully by Jofra Archer, actually. Mostly camping on the back foot, and a good diving stop from Kane Williamson takes most of the pace off it for Ravel to come round from mid-on. Sends in a throw that Neil Wagner wasn't really expecting. and they come through, I think, for 2 in the end. That was really powerfully hit by Jofra Archer.
To the point where once it went past him, it actually hit his hand, and you did slow down, but not to the point you normally...
Ravel had to chase it halfway back to the boundary. Yeah. Archer with that 2 moves to 6.
Steve Aldersley. It would be fitting if Santner took the last 2 wickets caught by Watling.
Yes, it would be somewhat. Short ball outside off stump, and it just loops through outside off stump. Archer lets it go harmlessly by through to the keeper. There is no run. I do... it's not sort of all must-have prizes, but Watling and Santner shared player of the match would be fitting, I think.
It would be, I mean... Yeah, it'd actually be nice to Santner come on, see if we can get a 5-4. If he's got his 100 to go with that, it would be a nice stat to have at the end of this game.
Yeah, it would be his first ever fifer in Test cricket, first fifer and first 100 in the same Test would be pretty nice. As Wagner's in fourth ball of the over, wide of the crease from round the wicket with that left arm slingy angle of his. That's back of a length, and Archer's in behind this one solidly, just drops it out in front of him. There is no run.
Man of match, they haven't actually ever done that, have they? Or they have seen it on the odd occasion from memory.
Every now and again,
it's more been the players kind of said, "I want to share this with someone."
Sometimes, what they sometimes do for player of the series is each team nominates a player from the other team to get player of the series.
Oh, interesting.
These things are all sort of ephemera and trinkets, but it'd be a nice gesture. Oh, Archer has a flash at this, trying to drive Neil Wagner on the up, misses it completely. Mercifully for him, through to Watling it goes. There is. No run. Missed that by a long way, didn't he?
Not sure what line he was playing down, but it was nowhere near.
Or what length he thought the ball was going to be at. That was a length delivery.
Well, your description of hitting it on the up was absolutely apposite, wasn't it? Would have been good if it had hit it.
It's one of those shots that looks amazing if you pull if it comes off, but when it doesn't, you go, "What are you actually doing?"
In comes Wagner, last ball of the over, very wide in the crease. Full outside off stump. Archer has another flash at this one. This was at least full enough to drive. He has a flash and it comes off the outside part of the bat, screams through the vacant wide gully region for 4.
And if you kids can't listen, then you bound to see the way you get shot for crossing a boundary.
Not really in control of it, but it flashed well away from a fielder. 6 runs off that over. England 160 for 8, trail now by 102.
So they're going to get it into double figures. This will be...
It'd be nice to lose by less than an innings and 100 runs.
I want to say minimise net run rate damage.
Jessica 1284 suggests cricket needs to be able to award multiple men of the match like ice hockey does. Wow, didn't know that.
That's good news. I didn't know that ice hockey did that. Nice gentlemanly touch
from a fairly barbaric. As I remember all the ice hockey matches.
I mean, you have the concept of the draw that exists in Test cricket, but we're reluctant to give 2 man of the match awards.
So the state of play as we come to 5 minutes before the end of the second session of day 5 is that England are 160 for 8, trailing by 102, and that change that we heralded with Tim Southey looking rather ineffective has happened.
I bet you hole out, you better not drive, you better not sweep, I'm telling you why. Santner's balls are drifting.
In comes Santner, slip, silly point, short leg, this one scuttles through, turns a little bit, but nothing sharply enough to worry Curran, and he prods it into the offside. There is no run. There's also a short mid-wicket in place. 3 men back on the leg side. Sam Curran does like to hit down the ground. There's also a deep point, and I think there's only one man saving one, who's mid-off, and even he's quite deep, so it's very much an in-out field. That's well outside. That's turned an absolute mile out of the footmarks and bounced too. Sam Curran was trying to cut that as it was about 2 feet outside off stump, and it ended up hitting him above the line of the stump's outside leg stump. Absolute ripper from Mitchell Santner. Jesus, that's gone a mile. And it thumped him in the armpit in the end, and eventually there is no run.
That was extraordinary. Went 45 degrees off the pitch,
and about the same up. There's not a lot you can do.
That's sort of ball that's kind of going. That's the one I would have liked to leave. You can't blame yourself for leaving that one.
What can Mitchell Santner do? Is he in Sam Curran's head after that ludicrous delivery? Tosses this up and it's padded away by Sam Curran. Big appeal from Watling, eventually supported by Mitchell Santner. Bruce Oxenford shakes his head. 2 wickets. 2 wickets left. 2 reviews left. Kane Williamson, sort of with a bit of a shrug, eventually reviews this. I'm not sure it's turning back enough.
Yeah, that was my initial reaction as well.
Sam Curran's a long way outside off stump and thrust his pad well out in front. Everyone went up in the end. Slip and keeper and bowler. It's had a no ball from Mitchell Santner. I take it all back. He's not man of the match. Shoot him. Front foot no balls by a spinner is unforgivable. Yeah, he does that Jadeja thing of landing on his toe and dragging his foot back, but I don't think he's dragged his foot back far enough for any part of the foot raised or grounded to be behind the line, so it may be immaterial as to whether this ball was actually going on to hit the stumps or not. If this is not a no ball, it's a Pat Cummins not a no ball from...
Well, I was going to say, it's an interesting precedent set this week, so you never know if it's called or not.
I can't see anything behind the line, grounded or above.
It comes down and it's right on the line, isn't it? So that's not out then, that's easy.
Oh, we're getting the magnifying glass out.
Yeah, no ball.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything behind the line. Not good from Mitchell Santner.
And the shadow doesn't count, does it?
No, the shadow does not count.
Jessica 1284, just clarifying, even though Anna and I might disagree on which team to support. So.
Which teams do you support? Actually, Anna, I know which team you support. Jessica, which team do you support?
Hendo's been on as well. Is England's batting a microcosm of the Tory manifesto? Promises much but will deliver fuck all.
And it is one of these.
And badly judged leaves.
And Jessica 1284 goes on to clarify, NHL awards first, second and third stars of the game to the top 3 players of the game, typically 2 from one team and 1 from the other. Thank you, Jessica.
Very good.
Did not know that at all.
That's very nice and egalitarian from ice hockey. So New Zealand don't lose the review because they never got to the review because it was a no ball. Tossed up outside off stump, and Sam Curran leans forward and defends this off the outside part of the bat into the offside. There is no run. We're seeing that this review, had it gone past the no ball, had we bothered checking, the ball would have missed the stumps. So actually, in a weird way, that no ball has saved New Zealand a review. Not that it really matters at this stage. England 161 for 8. Tossed up and much straighter. A nice delivery from Mitchell Santner, given a lot of air and held back a little bit and just dips on Sam Curran, and he defends and squirtily into the offside. There is no run.
A quality control tweet here from the Jersey Jingler. I had genuinely forgotten that I did the Santner jingle. Way too much reverb on the vocals. I'll have to re-record that.
It sounds great. What are you talking about? It sounds lovely. Richard Peel, absolute hero, along with Mogg and Perkins, and everyone else who's ever done a jingle for us outside of something. That's turned sharply, and Sam Curran has somehow been beaten on the outside edge by a ball that turned into him. That's how much he missed it by. A completely indecisive series of prods from Sam Curran, taken by Watling. There is no run.
Could be the last ball before tea.
Yes, it almost certainly will be. It is 2:40 a.m. UK time.
That's lost.
Yes, there may be the extra half hour taken. Sam Curran facing up to this delivery, which he blocks solidly into the offside, so that will be tea and very much New Zealand's session. England battled hard in the morning session, only losing the 1 wicket, but a flurry of wickets with the old ball reduced them from 121 for 4 to 161 for 8, and actually they were 138 for 8 when Joss Buttler got out, leaving a ball that thudded into the base of off stump. First ball with the second new ball. 63 runs in the session, 4 wickets. New Zealand have England 161 for 8, still 101 runs behind New Zealand. 2 more wickets only for New Zealand to win this first Test match in Mount Maunganui.
Steve Aldersley has some good news for England supporters. England are improving. Denley top scored with 12 in the summer. Now he's top scorer with 35. Messi Jazz Santner desperately trying to ensure the Kiwis compete with England in the comedy stakes. They have a lot of catching up to do, though.
A front foot no ball is not comedy. It's from a spinner. It's just unforgivable.
And Jessica 1284, further clarification. I'm an Aussie supporter, but also hold New Zealand citizenship. So,
bridging the Trans-Tasman divide.
Excellent.
So Anna Forsyth has followed up on this and gone, in the spirit of hockey, first star of the game BJ Watling, second star Mitchell Santner, third star Wagner's forehead vein.
Oh yeah. He's a little bit like Peter Siddle. You know, he's got that really he looks really angry when he's really happy. It's great. That forehead vein bulging, the neck veins. It's all very aggro. That wraps up us for this session. We'll be back in 15 minutes or so for the final session of the first test from Mount Maunganui. Archive footage in the meantime.
For it to be LBW because he didn't give him out for being LBW.
That's a good call. That at least makes some semblance of sense. That is cool. Good call. That's really
you won't
bloody
hear
irritating.
this